In this video, we will be going over the basics of special surveys. If you are familiar with the atlas, you may already know about general atlasing, which is the main source of data contribution for the atlas. It involves starting a checklist, traversing an area, and counting the amount of birds detected as well as the highest breeding evidence observed for that species during the checklist. However, general atlasing checklists lack a standardization of effort, which make them hard to analyze and offer poor detection for species that require more effort to observe. In order to address these issues, multiple special surveys have been created. They are point counts, owl surveys, nightjar surveys, and marshbird surveys. Point count surveys introduce a standardized protocol that is a vital tool in determining the relative abundance of birds in Ontario. These surveys involve counting all the birds seen or heard at a designated location within a 5-minute period. Owl, nightjar, and marshbird surveys also provide a standardized protocol, but they are more geared towards surveying the species that require more effort to detect. The skill required to complete special surveys varies from basic to advanced, with owl and nightjar surveys being the easier ones and point counts being the most challenging. But no matter your skill level, you should be able to find a survey that's right for you. All the special surveys share common elements, with each having its own standard protocol that designates how, where, and when to conduct the survey. It is important to note that you should not be intimidated by these survey protocols. They may seem like a lot, but once you know one protocol, they're all fairly similar in structure. For each protocol, 40 roadside points have been pre-selected by Atlas staff on each 10-kilometer square map. You choose the lowest numbered point count locations that fit the survey's requirements. Each of these surveys should be conducted within a certain time of the year as well as a certain time of the day. This differs with each special survey type in order to detect the species as best as possible. More information on the timing of each of these surveys will be discussed later in the video. Some survey protocols are very species specific and only apply in certain geographic areas. Essentially, these special surveys should be performed in squares where the target species is within range. In other words, you wouldn't conduct an eastern screech owl survey in the far northern regions of Ontario, as that species has not been observed in that area. Weather has an influence on our ability to hear or see a species, since some animals may be less active during inclement weather and wind may prevent us from hearing their vocalizations. Considering this, surveys should not be performed when it is windy, very cold, or during persistent snow or rain. Since some of the special surveys involve species that are very hard to detect, we use playback as a way to increase our odds of detection. Broadcast files of each species are provided on the special surveys section of the website. These MP3 broadcast files are to be played during the appropriate surveys in order to elicit a response from the corresponding species. For the surveys that require broadcast playback, play the full audio clip and do not play the clip more than once. An important note in regards to not duplicating survey effort: please contact your regional coordinator to make sure there isn't more than one person conducting the same kind of survey in the same square. They'll appreciate your help and be able to point you towards a nearby square that does need the effort. To access the regional coordinator page from the Atlas homepage, open the Atlas drop-down menu, select Atlas Team, and then Regional Coordinators. Here you will find all the information you need to contact your RC. To navigate to the Special Surveys section of the Atlas website, go to birdsontario.org/special surveys. Here you will find all the resources you need to complete a special survey. Check out the instructions and forms page for the point count manual. There are a few things you need to prepare before you can start surveying. First, you will need to familiarize yourself with the songs and calls of the target species you are conducting the survey for, as well as the other bird, mammal, and amphibian species known to be vocal in your survey location. The Special Surveys page has a full list of these species. You will also need various equipment items such as the manual for the special survey you will be conducting, a timekeeping device, a portable MP3 player, boombox, or smartphone, and amplified speaker, if playback is required, a GPS, and more. The full list of equipment can be found in each of the manuals. sure to read the manual for the special survey you intend to perform. This video is just a brief outline of all the special surveys. Exact details for each survey type can be found in its respective manual. All the manuals are laid out the same way. Once you know the protocol, you might find it easiest to use the quick guide at the start of each manual for the survey-specific details. For each survey, start with point 1 on the square map and determine whether the habitat at point 1 is suitable for the species, according to what the protocol says. For owl surveys, you should scope out each point during the day to determine the habitat. It's a good idea to have a couple extra suitable stops as backup. It is important to note that you do not have to complete your survey at each point in order. You only have to choose the lowest numbered suitable sites. Picking points for point count surveys is similar. However, you will need to select 20 on-road points and 5 off-road points. The marshbird survey is slightly different since it's very unlikely to have a point at a suitable wetland. Instead, find the closest suitable roadside wetland to point number 1. Then repeat until you have enough stops. Let's get into a little more detail for each of the special surveys. Owl and nightjar surveys are perfect for volunteers who are not yet as advanced in bird identification, as you only have to know a few songs and calls for these few species. There are 5 different owl survey protocols and 1 nightjar protocol. As mentioned earlier, these owl surveys should be conducted within a certain range. And they should be done at a certain time of day, with a certain amount of survey stations per square, during calm weather conditions, and with some requiring a playback device. You can already see some of the similarities between the surveys. Marshbird surveys can be a bit more challenging for volunteers who are not as strong at bird ID yet, as you have to be familiar with the songs and calls of all species found in an Ontario marsh. The requirements of the survey are also similar to those of the owl and nightjar protocols. Point count surveys require a higher level of bird identification, as you must know all the birds in your survey location by sound. However, if you are willing to perform point count surveys but do not have the bird ID skills required, you have the option of conducting digital point count. This involves recording the point count so that it can be interpreted later by an expert. Point counts also follow the same structure as the previously mentioned protocols. All special survey protocols are on the app, but you can fill out the physical data forms and submit them online if you prefer that method. To give you a better idea of what the data forms look like, here's the Eastern Screech Owl data form. All the information you need to fill out the form is on the form itself. Regardless of the type of special survey, the datasheet will usually ask for the survey location, the species detected, where it was detected, when it was detected, and the noise level. Once you have completed your surveys, submit your data on the Nature Counts website. Submitting special survey data on the app is just as easy. The benefit is you don't have to manually enter the data on Nature Counts after. You are able to input the same information as you are in the data forms. Plus, the app provides a timer that you can use when you are ready to start your survey. For short videos on how to submit data on the app, check out the Atlas YouTube channel. The link can be found on the Atlas website. That's the basics of special surveys. They're really fun and provide very meaningful data for the Atlas, filling in information we might not get through general atlasing. And because they require differing levels of expertise, some can be done even if you're new to birds or can't identify all the species in your area. If you are interested in conducting any of these special surveys, please contact your regional coordinator.